AITA for parking in someone else's spot in a community parking setup? Apologies for the less than straightforward title. Basically, I live in a cul-de-sac and there is no entitled parking spots for residents. There are spaces available within the cul-de-sac, but it's community parking, first come first served per se. The parking is limited, I'm guessing as the houses are older. The builders did not anticipate that some houses may own multiple cars etc. years on. However, I own one car. I'm not picky where I park. I find a spot and park there. Recently, I had found a spot available and started parking there when it was open. I have been parking there for a few months but only when available. Today, I had a neighbor, let's call her neighbor, a knock on my door angry and aggressive saying that my parking is nasty and entitled. Neighbor A said that the spot is another neighbor's neighbor B spot as she has parked there for years. Before I moved in, I explained that I understood the frustration but it's community parking. This did little to soothe her anger. Neighbor A doesn't even drive, she was arguing with me I guess on behalf of the other neighbor. Anyway, once angry neighbor A withdrawn back to her home, I noticed that the neighbor B who had supposedly usually parked in the spot I have been using had returned home. She did not come to my door to express any frustration. I did notice however that neighbor A came out of her home and approached her. I was looking out my window. Neighbor A was pointing around the cul-de-sac and at my car. I stayed watching just in case anything was done to my car. I went to neighbor B's house to politely ask if she had issues with my parking, but she didn't answer. This was following the conversation I had seen between neighbor A and B. Once neighbor A had returned home again, I left a note asking if she had any problems and to come talk to me to resolve it if she felt she needed to. I'm just confused. Usually, neighbor B parked next to me often, and when we had came home at the same time and exchanged pleasantries. There were no remarks to me parking in her spot. In the grand scheme of things I have more to worry about than parking, but I hate the thought of making enemies with my neighbors. AITA. Also having sent a note to neighbor B asking if she had issues with my parking. If she decides to not come and speak to me regarding the issue, would you take this as a free pass to park there without earache?